Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am your co host, Samuel Richardson,
And I'm Tiara Richardson.
and welcome to the Cuddle with Purpose show. All right, y'all. Before we go into our topic for this evening, first and foremost, what I would like for everyone to do is to please like and subscribe if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, which we are live in the moment right now as we speak on Cuddle with Purpose YouTube. So hit that like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That definitely helps our channel to continue to grow. Right now, we're probably at 1,260 subscribers, and our YouTube channel is monetized. So it'd be grateful if you support us. Also, as you can see on our banner on the bottom of the screen, we actually have our Cash App. And if you would like to be a guest, and if you are a good fit for our brand, you can reach us at our email address at cuddlewithpurpose@gmail.com.
Oh, yeah.
Also, we do have a Zelle account. That's Samuel at propertyoverpoverty.com. So you can donate and support whatever you choose to do. It'll be greatly appreciated. So, today's topic is the secret to relationship success and learning to deal with conflict. So, this is our topic of conversation for today. And I just want to go in, T, and just talk to you about the beginning stages of our relationship. When we first got together, and fast forward because we got married like in 6 months, we didn't know really everything about each other.
Right.
And this is a confession for me, just to talk about one of the things that I was doing wrong in our marriage. And one of the things that I was doing wrong in our marriage is how I was communicating to you. Some of the things what I was doing is that I was getting short patient. I was getting irritated, and I would take out my frustration on you by raising my voice, calling you outside of your names. And if you want to be specific, it was names that was not respectable. I know sometimes I may have called you the B word a couple of times. I don't want to say it online on the full word, but we all know the B word. And I don't care if anyone judge me, because at the end of the day, this is what we do at Cuddle with Purpose, is we be real. And one of the things that I regret is how I talked to you early on in our marriage. And that's one of the things that I want to talk about, is that what I learned over time is that I needed to get better in my communication with you. I needed to learn how to talk to you. I needed to learn how not to go tick and tack with you, and knowing that there are other healthy ways of communication in order to get my point across. And so those are the things that I was disappointed in myself. And it had to take me to say, okay, Sam, I need to look in the mirror, and I really need to say to myself that I need to work on me. And some of the solutions that I did in working on myself was going to therapy, talking to a therapist, and being able to learn how to control my emotions, because I did not know how to learn how to control my emotions.
I'm
I
sorry,
did
I
not
actually connected on my phone.
I did not know how to control my emotions based off on the fact of I was letting my anger get the best of me. And I
Mhm.
don't know, with our listeners that are watching, and you can feel free to comment.
Mhm.
Have you ever gone in your marriage or in a relationship where you have said some things that you regret? Have you gotten to a point in your relationship where you have said some things that you're not proud of? You have called your spouse outside of their name because you was upset, you was in the heat of the moment. And I'm willing to put my hand up in the air. I'm one of those people.
Mhm.
And this is what we are about on our channel, is to talk about our wrongs, but also talk about the success or the solutions on what we took to make our wrongs right.
Right. Well, I would first like to say thank you. I think this is such a breaking and powerful conversation for us to even come to this point. I even got my non-alcoholic wine just for y'all. Just for it says non-alcoholic. But this is a very intense conversation, just because when we think about challenges in our marriage, it doesn't go to what the typical people may their minds may go, or deal breakers. And we're not talking about issues of things like infidelity, or we're not talking about abuse of anything of that nature, but we're talking about the breakdown in communication. And that's literally how you operate from day to day. And so for us to get to this point 6 years later, where we can actually have a very real and transparent moment about how we've navigated communication throughout our marriage, I think I can definitely say we've grown. um, I can definitely say we definitely have a ways to go, because we still have growing to do. But I will say aren't where we used to be. And when I say that you are someone that takes accountability, and you have really done the work to change those necessary things that was an issue, I'm so grateful for that, because so often in marriages, and even our counselor mentioned this, he said, you guys are early in this thing. He said some people wait 10, 15, 20 years, or after there has been something very drastic that has happened, to then talk about the elephant and the issues in the room. But we tapped into that early on in our marriage, because we wanted to have a level of healthiness in our relationship. And so um, I appreciate you taking accountability for that. I will say that one of the issues that I know has been a breakdown as far as my communication is yelling. you know I know that my voice has raised, and and literally I used to like be like, why is my voice going, why are you going to that point? Because he can hear you if you just be calm, and he probably can hear you even better if you're not yelling. He'd probably be more willing to listen even more if you're not yelling. um I don't know why I felt the need to raise my voice. Of course, I got so many so many reasons. I could always say, "Oh, your voice is louder," da 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 da. But just to take accountability, honestly, I know that's something. And then also, when it came down to that breakdown in communication, I would say me having that moment where I'm not going to walk back down, or I'm not going to walk away because I want to have the last word, because I was so hurt based upon what was said or how it was said. So I would automatically go into fence mode and feel like I got to win this. And that was definitely not the way to go about it. So I'm glad that I was able to look at that and shift that behavior as far as our communication goes too.
So what I would like to talk about, what I would say, so T, let me ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel in our marriage that there are some things that you have done or some things that you have said in our marriage and early on in our marriage that there's something that you are not proud of, besides the fact on what you just said by saying something that it was more of a retaliation on what I have done? But is there any things that you or have you done in our marriage that has said to you that, you know what, that wasn't the right move, that wasn't the right thing to say, that wasn't the right thing to do?
Yeah, I know that I would actually go into my archives of things that I know may have bothered you, or something that you may have shared with me, or just something in an attack to a relation to something, and try to use that, whether it's relating you to a behavior that you mentioned about your father, in communication or something like that, like, and trying to throw you into that box when that's not you. You are two different people. And so I know that was definitely wrong. Um
So basically,
and
let
some
me
pain
stop right
points.
there, because I
Right.
don't want you to forget what the next thing you about to say. So basically, what you are saying is that you would use something that I have confided in you
Mm-hmm.
about things with my family, particularly one aspect with my dad, and
Mm-hmm.
you will bring that up to try to tear me down or to get at me based off on what I have confided in you. So, and that's something that is very important there. And the reason I want to elaborate on that is
Mm-hmm.
because I feel this is one of the tactics that
Mm-hmm.
I feel that is done in relationships, that are done in marriages, is that when you're married to someone, you confide in that person, or you should be confiding in that person. That person should be your confidant. And when
Mm-hmm.
they're your confidant, you tell them things that are close to your heart, things that have probably broken your heart, things that have probably made you sad, put you in stressful situations, made you depressed, full of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And just imagine how it feels if someone says something to try to use that against you, to belittle you, to get you upset. That's a hurt
Mm-hmm.
feeling.
Right. Right.
That's a hurt feeling. And I think that's something that really, for me, in our marriage, was really something that I did not like. Just to kind of give a backdrop or backstory of my life growing up as a kid, um, I experienced a lot of things with my dad. Some things were happy, but there were a lot of things that were not good. I experienced my dad with the raising of the voice, the arguing and bickering with my mom. Even
Mm-hmm.
got to the point where it got physical, where I saw him slap my mom. I saw him hit my mom. I used to get beatings from my dad. Not only beatings, but I'm talking about beatings with extension cords, with belt buckles, to the
Mm-hmm.
points where my mom have to yell, say, to say stop. And I'm breaking that up to say, in today's world,
Mhm.
If someone witnessed that they're a parent doing that to a child, they're going to jail. And I
Yeah.
bring that up too as well is because I've worked very hard, being raised up, even though there was love there from my father, but still I was raised up in an abusive home,
Mhm.
mentally, verbally, and physically. And so when you have that and you've seen that all your life, I saw some of those traits in myself in what I was doing to you. One of
Mhm.
those traits was how I talk to you. And that's at the beginning of this episode that I think is so very important and taking accountability for your actions. And that's what I want to do is take accountability for our actions and explain to our audience in just a little bit
Yeah.
of our background. And I just want to say to you, it's something that I'm so very grateful for me to
Mhm.
be able to understand that
Yeah.
negative trait, understand that for me, that I needed to learn how to control my emotions, learn how to talk to my wife,
Mhm.
because I understood that if I did not get this checked out or did not work on this, it was going
Mhm.
to cause a bigger problem that can lead to all type of things. And I did not want our son to see how his father talks to his mother.
Right. I think it's just so refreshing just to think about, to be honest, babe. I just it gives you that moment of being able to just exhale, um and just have a moment of peace, and knowing that we've done the work, you know. And the reality is, a lot of people say that you shouldn't come into relationships and marriage with baggage, but the truth of the matter is we all have a duffel bag or two. I always say this. And some things we are aware that we're carrying, and then there's others that we aren't. And it is up to us to be able to unpack that and decide what we're going to throw away, what we're going to keep, and what we're going to actually nurture. And so I definitely want to just say again, like, the work is has been put in, and I would suggest for any couple, but also for whomever that person is, whether it's a male or the female that has that um, breakdown in communication, um, and see those very toxic traits, that they address it. Because a lot of times, yes, it takes two to tangle, but sometimes one person's behavior can cause a huge rift in the relationship. And I think that that is so important that we as individuals acknowledge that, because of course there's always a cause and effect, but everything isn't a cause and effect. Sometimes there are some triggers that we have to acknowledge, and that's one of the things that I wanted to discuss as far as communication as well, um, because I know, because of the communication, the emotional and verbal abuse that you dealt with, even as an adult, because I saw it before your father passed away. I saw it in text messages. I heard it, um, and you still loved him unconditionally. Um, it's hard to grasp, but I'm literally losing my thought. What was I about to say?
And feel free if you wanted to ask me a question in regards to that, TT. Just I'm an open book because I think I want our listeners to really to understand just how much we have persevered in our marriage. And I feel, and in today's time when we're seeing a lot of people getting divorces in marriages and things of that nature,
Mhm.
we understand is that me and you have made a conscious decision is that divorce is not an option. And we've
Right.
made a conscious decision to even work on our marriage, even for anything drastically was going wrong in our marriage. But we saw signs, we saw
Right.
things that we didn't like that caused some conflict in our relationship, but we wanted to, you know, meet it head on and address the issue. And I think that's the problem with
Right.
some people in their relationship is that they don't address some of the issues early.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think we have to address the triggers, um because when you're coming from two different worlds, there's absolutely no way that you're going to know every a person's every trigger. Like you would never know what one word that you say is going to bother someone. And that's something that I learned with communicating with you. And I think I'm sure the same thing with me. But when I look at I had to what I had to do is to look at the circumstances of what I was saying to help me kind of pinpoint a little bit what it is. So, is it that I'm giving directions the wrong way? Am I giving too much? Am I imposing too much of my opinion? Or is it how I'm saying it? Is it this word? So I think that that's another level of relationship and communication and in marriage, that when you understand, well, this is what took place in this time in their world. Um, and if you know something, you adjust it. Do you tiptoe? No, because I'm not a tiptoe type of person. Like I can't do it. I won't do it. Um, but I've also learned, like they say, how to pick your battles, when is the best time to say things. Um, and I think that that has definitely helped as well. Um, Me coming from a place of Miss I am every woman when we met, you know, me being with you is because I want to be with you, not because I need you. And but still coming trying to go in more of a humbler stance. And when I say humble in a very positive way, I think that because of who you are as a man, as an alpha male, as a provider, as just a very dominant personality, um, I had to understand that as well. And understand that those were actually the different traits that I fell in love with. But I think when you're in it every day, all day, it hits different. It sounds different. And it definitely sounds different when you are a woman that runs your own world, if that makes sense.
It talk to me a little bit when you explain to me a little bit what do you mean? Elaborate on that when a woman that runs your own world. And are you saying like far as in our marriage, or you saying like far as explain that a little bit? What you mean running your own world in our marriage?
I guess it's more so like I'm gonna do what I want to do, when I want to do it. I'm gonna say what I want to say, how I want to say it, when I want to say it. I'm not gonna think too much about it, and you're gonna have to just deal with it. that's more so of how I approached a lot of things because
in our marriage.
yeah, early on, especially because it's like, I show you I love you. You know I love you. We cool, we married, but listen, sis, sis is grown. Sis is I am everything, okay? This is that mentality. And then when I realized like we were talking about in our last show, just kind of like dial it down just a little bit because I'm not trying to prove a point here. I don't have to prove my strength here. I don't have to I don't have to be a boss, I guess, if you will, inside um our marriage. And I think that also kind of leads into our last conversation in regards to just in submissiveness as well. And I think, like I said, I think that looks different in every relationship as well. I know I said a lot, but yeah.
No, it's cool. I think one of the things for me in our relationship, I think for a man, a black man, a alpha man, one of the things that they want to always feel in their marriage, and I say for me, is feel like that they're with their woman who's not going to emasculate them. What I mean, emasculate, um, just like make them feel less than,
Mm.
and in their lowest moments make them even feel uncomfortable where that strong black man may feel like, damn, and I'm like low, I feel like I don't even feel valued. And I
Right.
think that is so very important and is one thing that I am very keen on in our relationship,
Hmm.
is that we have to make sure that we are very mindful in the words that we use, that we're not using our words to tear down one another.
Hmm.
And I think that is so very important in relationships, because sometimes you can say some things in a relationship where you can't take it back, and
Hmm.
it can bring up a level of resentment,
Oh yeah.
because so many things that you have a person have said can really kind of like sit there still in that spouse's mind. So
Mhm.
even though we have, or the person have moved on in that relationship, their mind can still be conflicted based off on, I still remember what you said to me months ago that really hurt me. It really broke me down from a mental perspective. And this is what
Right.
I say, that words can hurt,
Mhm.
but at the same token, is that terminology that's been used over time to say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Right.
That terminology was used to be able to control our emotions so that we don't lash out, or we don't allow conflict to come from a verbal to a
Mhm.
physical perspective. And I think that is so very important that we understand that terminology, or that quote that's put out there, is that we have to be mindful, is that death and life is in the power of the tongue. So
Mhm.
what we say can be just as divisive
Mhm.
as you fighting somebody. But on the other end is learning how to control your emotions to be able to diffuse that situation, so that way we can have effective communication and then deal with the issue on why the other person may feel they have to use such derogatory words to try to tear down that person in that relationship, because I believe there is a deeper issue there.
I would agree with that. I think on the flip side of that, I think is also trying to decipher what is an insult versus what isn't. I think that when you have someone like myself who's just straightforward in saying what it is that I'm going to say, it could definitely be coming all from love in my mind. I think I'm coming from a positive place, and how I said it may have not, it may, the delivery may have not been received in that way. So I think that that's really important. I know that you shared that you might have called me the B word, um, and I'm trying to think about what I've called you, but and I know it's been some words, but one of the ones I know I
Do you
definitely,
really have to think about it? Do you really have to think
yeah,
about it?
no, I do have to think about it. But I will say one of them I would definitely say is, bruh, you acting real sensitive, right? Like you maybe, I'm trying to figure out if maybe I don't have a cuss word. What's the cuss word I've used?
I can't speak for you. I can only
Oh,
speak for
okay.
myself
Because
at this
I
point.
don't think I've ever like called. I don't think I've used a cuss word. I might have cussed at you, definitely, hands down, period. But I'm literally trying to think over here. I don't remember using too much bad words.
Yeah, yeah. Hey,
I
I,
know
I,
I've used definitely term, now we both use this word narcissist. Definitely use that word. Definitely use the word controlling. Definitely use the word irrational. Definitely use the word I don't know. It's been some words. Whatever, all of the divisive terminologies that I could find out, because y'all know I'm a wordsmith, I'm a writer. I come up with some words out of the dictionary and I've used them. And they haven't always been in the most positive way.
and you use that word narcissist a lot early in our relationship, and I think for me, and it's just my opinion, it has something to do with your mother as well. And the reason why I say that is because I remember there was a time when we was getting together, and when we on our wedding day, it was some things said from your mom that really um pissed me off. And it was some things that I would never think of saying when Samuel one day decides to get married to the woman of his dreams, that I would never want to say
Mm-hmm.
to his future wife.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that I say is the reason why on this episode, that is knowing how to deal with conflict and understand, is that sometimes people will say things and lash out things based off on their unhappiness in their own life. And also people will
I
say
agree.
things too as well, based off on their experiences, on what they have been through in their life. And this is why I say it's so very important, is that if you can't fix it yourself, is to go get help. Whether that's through a therapist, whether that's through a psychologist, whether that's through somebody that is a professional that can help mend some of the probably emotional trauma that a person has gone through in their life. Because I know for me, I have been through some emotional trauma in my
Mm-hmm.
life, starting off as a kid, going into a teenager, and even up to an adult. So I had some things that I had to work on tremendously. So when you're talking about comparing me early on in our marriage to where I'm at now, it took a lot of work. It took me to understand that, what, when something is not being said, because I believe in this philosophy, it always takes two to tango.
Mm-hmm.
It takes two to tango. And when I say that it takes two to tango, you have to always be conscious is that when someone is fighting fire with their words, it is not worth your time and energy to fire back with fire, because a lot of times it's going to take a lot of stress, it's going to take some depression, and it's not healthy for you. And I would say for me, one of the solutions that I have taken in our marriage is that when we have disagreements, or if you say something that I don't like, what I do, I'll end it off and I'll walk off.
Just walk off.
I'll walk off. I'll be like, you know what? This is my favorite line. You know what? I ain't got time for this. I ain't got time.
Right.
I do that when I ain't got time. And I think that is something that is healthy for a person that's matured in knowing how to communicate effectively to your life partner. Is understand is that, you know what, if a person says something, if my spouse says something I don't like, even though it's something that's really upset me, guess what, I'm not going to stoop down to that level, because oftentimes it may feel good to fire back. Oh, what the hell you call me? You call me a B? Oh, you MFing mother. You know what I'm saying? And the next day you know it, you're not even aware of your surroundings. And one thing I wanted to make a conscious effort is understanding that we have a 4-year-old, and understand is that what the example that I want to set for our 4-year-old. And this is why I say Samuel loves love. He loves kissing us. He loves hugging us and things like that. And why is that? Because he have seen more loving, more nourishing from his parents than the negativity of cutting down one another with words. And one thing I would say to parents, when two parents have disagreement or something, because you have life tragedies, you have life conflict that happens in marriages. It's learning that sometimes is that to fight your spouse in front of your children is not the way. And when I say fight, I'm talking about verbal, saying things, calling them out their name, but learning to say, you know what, we'll talk about this later. We will talk about this later. And learning to let go of things. That's a whole nother conversation right there, T. Because at one point, I used to get so mad at you
and hold grudges.
I wouldn't speak to you. How long would it take me to speak to you when we got into
at least
in our relationship?
A good 12 to 24 hours now. I've never literally seen anything. First of all, I'm the most forgiving person. And that's why I know when they say opposites attract, because I don't know how to be mad. I can't go for hours and not communicate and not talk and have the mad. I have to literally go through my mind and have these talks like, okay, you should, girl, act mad for at least 5 minutes or something. Man, I can't do it. I cannot do it. I don't know how to go to bed mad. I know that it's unrealistic to say that you won't be upset, or you won't be able to go. You shouldn't go to bed with a disagreement, because some things aren't resolved in one conversation. I am well aware of that, but I'm a super forgiving person. Whereas Sam, nah, bruh. You cross Sam, and Sam big mad. And that was to be something that I was like, bruh, petty. That's what I used to call you, petty. Real petty. Like, bruh. Like so you gonna be mad this long. Like this really like all I can say is thank God for being a work in progress. And thank God that I'm just who I am and you are who you are, and that you love yourself enough, but you also love me and Samuel enough to give us the best version of you. And I just appreciate you really being who you say you are, even behind closed doors, you know. Um, for us, even having this conversation, we don't like talking about anything that we feel we haven't um accomplished, if that makes sense. We don't like to dive into things that we haven't, really worked on within ourselves. And I will also say this, communication is a daily work of art. It really is a daily thing. Like one day, or no, the morning, we may have responded in the best way, but there may be a conversation later in the evening, and it's like I don't want to hold my mouth in this moment. So I feel like communication is a constant piece of work, and it's like we have to be so conscious of it. It's just like it's like waking up every morning deciding that I want to show up for this marriage. I want to show up in the best way possible. But for me, is showing up with a level of peace. I always feel like in marriage, you should have peace. I That's something that I constantly pray for, is to have a level of peace in our marriage, in our communication. Um, so yeah.
Let me ask you this.
Mhm.
Why do you feel some people in marriages will try to bring up a confidant, something that relationship? Why would you think that spouse would try to bring up things to try to, tear them down? Why do
Well,
you think spouses would do that?
because I think it's a fight. I feel like one of the issues in communication is that competitiveness. That, like, if I feel like you've sliced me with your words, then, and I feel, and somehow I feel like this relates to, because I'm like one of those people, I relate things to something else. That's just how I do everything. And if I see that there's some type of relation to it, that's why I would do it. Now, for other people, I don't know. I think, in marriages, I feel like we all can hit below the belt, because this person, them inside out. And if you're in a dog fight, actual communication fight, you want to be that wordsmith. You want to, if you feel like they just slice you, you want to slice their ass back. And I think that that's where it all comes down to. Um, I think that also it goes down to when there's somebody that's very critical in the relationship. Um, when you bring it down to being critical, being judgmental, being all of these things, even sometimes self-righteous, um, I think that definitely can cause some poor communication in marriage.
I think I think all of those things are true, but I would like to add in there. I know that I feel, early on in our relationship that you was said some things to me that I didn't even say anything or called you outside your name or say anything to get you upset. I just think that that was just a personality trait of yours, that you will use something that I've communicated with you in confidant to try to get under my skin or try to get me to get angry, because based off maybe that you didn't like having control, or whether making a decision on something and something didn't go your way. And sometimes we can have a tendency to let our competitive nature or let our personality or what we have get the best of us, where we may fire with something to be like, okay, then so let me get him upset since I'm not getting my way.
Yeah, because I think it comes with growth.
Mm-hmm.
I think it comes with growth. I think it comes with maturity, because the things that I may have been, I guess, offended by or bothered by or would have responded to, I probably wouldn't even, I'm sure I don't think about it today. I know a
Mm-hmm.
lot of those things don't even, happen today, but I think it comes along with understanding one another.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our model for year 6 of our marriage. Understanding is so important. And when you don't understand one another, it makes it really hard, because we all have emotions, right? I will say that you and I are very deep thinkers. You are one of the most competitive people I know. Like, you will turn anything into a competition. And you say it. Now, to me, it can be annoying as hell sometimes. And it's like why? Like, why? Why are we doing this right here? Right? Um, but I'm losing my train of thought. But I think that what we was talking about, babe?
Like far as you had said on the tail end part is that we was talking about why would someone say something or try to tear them down based off on them talking to them in confidence, and you were just saying that it just comes with maturity and learning and understanding yourself is knowing how to be more mature in handling situations like that.
Yeah, I think it comes down to maturity in what you hear. I
Mm-hmm.
think that
What about do you think family history plays a major role or can play a major role in conflicts? Because I've heard it on both sides. I've heard it, some people say that, well, you got to take some accountability for your own actions. You're a grown adult.
Mhm.
But on the other end, there's some people that say if a person has been through some emotional trauma and been through some things in their life, they have probably seen some things and adapt to those things on what they have been involved in for a whole lot of years.
I think it's a combination.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I feel like we come with with duffel bags, not a bag. We come with bags, and the truth of the matter is our life experiences, and it's also our choices, and it's our makeup. But a huge part of communication comes down to acknowledging that there has to be a level of respect, there has to be a level of peace, and that sometimes you're going to have to adjust for the betterment of our union. Like, I think that that's really what it is. Um, One thing I feel is so important, though, is that we don't change who we are completely. I feel like I always say this: if I got something to tell you and I know it may not be like my favorite response that I want from you, if I feel like it's important for me to tell you in that moment, I'm going to tell you, because I feel that it's important for me to tell you now. And I'm not concerned about your response in this moment, because I know that you're going to hear me. You may not hear me clearly in that moment, but I know you're going to have that time to allow it to sink in, and vice versa. So, I think that's important as well.
Yeah, I would say to a certain extent, I agree with that. I think timing is everything. I think knowing your spouse as well is everything. And you have to learn. I think sometimes you have to pick and choose when it's the right time based off on whatever the situation is. Because sometimes we can, make decisions based off, okay, we can be so eager that we want to get it off our chest because we may feel it's important in that moment. It may be important in that time, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right time to convey that message based off on it can cause a misunderstanding and it can flare up into a situation where it can be an argument. So it says this depends on that spouse. You have to know your spouse well enough and you have to be able to know when it's the right time and knowing sometimes, okay, I'll wait till later to communicate that, or I can do this now. But only that person should know when it's the right time based off on the understanding of their spouse in the relationship.
Like I said, I think we've actually had this conversation before. I just feel like you're not going to always know the right time. When you're dealing with somebody that they're always in go mode, and you can't feel and read them out, and that's just who they are as a person, you're not going to always know when to say this, when not to say that. It's kind of like that's like asking somebody to, like, I don't know, pick an hour in a day. Like, if that's the case, that's like you having to schedule an hour out the day to say, this is when I will disclose this information to you because I know that this is the time that we've allotted. Like, I think it's a little difficult because everybody is not easy to read, if that makes sense.
But I think in relationships, though, let me give you an example. Let's say and it's all about effective communication. So, it's coming to your spouse to be like, hey, babe, how you doing? I got something I want to talk to you about it. It's something a little personal. If it's not a good time, I totally get it. But if it's something that we can talk about later, would you be open to doing that? And see what that does. It allows you to have a fill out process with your partner and to understand where they're at in that moment of time. So it's not, I feel, and marriage is a lot of work, guys.
It's team a lot because what you just said is like a whole speech. Like you're like asking,
but that's
when the two different personalities come in, because that's just like
patience.
Okay, every time you're saying every time.
No, I'm not saying every time.
Excuse me.
No.
If you have time,
there you go.
Like, nah, ain't nobody got time for that every time.
But see, it's funny how when you say and you automatically have it in your mind to think that it's every time. What I communicated based off on what it is. Sometimes certain things, depending on what it is, you have big situations, you have small situations. Now, if you're talking about finances, that could be a big situation. If you're talking about having to, invest money and capital in this business or getting, budgeting and things like that. So there's a level of fortitude from a mental perspective that your other spouse had to be mentally prepared to have that type of conversation. And we all know
none of that. What if your spouse is just wanting to come talk to you? And I think another thing is people being ready to receive their spouse. I think that's a part of communication. I think there's a huge part of it. I would say probably 70% of it is how you're communicating to your spouse, right? But I would definitely say that the other 30% of it is being prepared to receive what your spouse is saying to you.
But if the 70% of the spouse doesn't know how to talk to them, then that 30% of what you said, that spouse is probably going to not have that time and want to hear from them because they feel like, hey, man, you don't know how to talk to me. And I ain't got time right now for you saying something that's going to get under my skin or to get me uproar. So I ain't got time. I don't want to hear it, because I think that's a major point there, because if there is a history of that spouse not knowing how to talk to them, maybe when that spouse do come in, man, you know what? I really, are you dying? Are you sick?
So see, that's the worst communication right there. If a person is always going to be on straight defense mode as soon as their spouse is trying to communicate with them, that's a breakdown in communication. That's like putting somebody almost like a child feeling like they just can't come to their spouse and just have an open dialogue without trying to always check the temperature and not knowing how they're going to pop off, and you would even say yeehaw yet. It's just because of whatever they're feeling. I'm in this, I'm in this mode, don't F up my energy, different things like that. Like, you have to be prepared to, like, even if you don't want to hear it, even if you're not interested, even if you're busy, I think that everybody in their relationship has to have the ability to be able to receive their spouse and to make it to a place where they're comfortable enough to know
That's it.
that I can come
That's
and
it.
talk to you and
But it
without
should,
any reservations,
but that has to
without
be
any
on both sides. That
limitations.
has to be on both sides. Not It's not only on one side, T.
Right.
And I think that's the important thing to remember. I don't think it has any. Sometimes it may not have to do with them being childish or petty. It
Mm-hmm.
may has them to do with it. You have to make that other spouse, or should make that other spouse, feel comfortable enough where they want to hear you out, where they want to sit down and have a communication with you. Because let me just, for an example, if a spouse always feel tore down based off on every time, if they come and talk to you about something and y'all have a conversation and then it always turn into a disagreement, guess what? That's going to make one of those spouses feel, you know what? I ain't gonna feel comfortable talking to you, because it seems like every time we get in a conversation and then talk
Right.
about something, there's
Mhm.
gonna be always some types of agreement. And then this is the key factor. Not only there's a disagreement, but one of those spouses can have a tendency to bring up something from the past to try to tear that person down based off on that spouse communicated to them, far as from a personal level. So when you have that on a consistent basis, what you're doing is you're really shunning that other partner up to, like, you know what? You're really making me a prisoner in my own relationship. You're making me
I agree.
feel,
Now that's exactly what I was saying. Like that,
yeah.
I think it just goes back to, that's like saying somebody got to have a dictionary and a thesaurus in their back pocket. They got to know whether you hot, cold, or warm. They need to check your temperature. They need, yes, honey. Go ahead. Here you go. You're welcome. And I just think that every relationship is different. Um, I feel like communication is really complex, but I don't think it should be hard. I think that's just what I'm saying. I don't feel like it should be hard. I think it should be something that's with ease, and I feel like there
Hey,
should
baby, let's
also
be
be.
real. Marriage can be hard.
I
Marriage can
know
be
marriage
hard.
is hard. I just feel like,
I just want to put that
can
disclaimer
we
out there.
can
Marriage
we
is not easy
grow?
now.
Can we grow in a place where, and I'm speaking in marriage in general, like grow into a place where it could be a conversation and not words are just like, it's just not an easy offense, like easily offended, or this is word means this, or you're trying to try to be my mama, or you trying to be my daddy, or you trying to, like, I feel like, can people just talk and not feel like what they're saying is coming from a very negative place? I feel like that's where there's the breakdown in relationships, in the communication, um overall.
I think you said a terminology that I want to key in on when you said on the latter end, easily offended.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I don't like that terminology. Let me tell you why I don't like it. It's because when you say easily offended, if a spouse feels offended, a spouse feels offended, and that should be respected. What for one spouse it may not be offensive, but the other spouse it may be offensive, and their feelings should not be discredited or should be made feel less than because of based off on how you feel. And I think that could be a growing alarm in a relationships, because you can have someone that's strong-headed like that in a marriage and feel like, man, you're a wuss, man. Like, why you got your panties in the water, or why you so soft, man? That wasn't that, man. You so easily offended on everything. That could be a trigger for that other spouse. That can be a trigger, and we have to be always so careful. And I'm big on this, T, because I've always say this, even when we are watching shows, with marriages and things like that, is that our words are very powerful. How we say our words, the type of words that we use to communicate to our other spouse, it can either cause a conflict or it can actually cause a good conversation piece to help solve the issue. But the person have the power when they're communicating to make sure that you have to be cognizant of what you say out your mouth. And not say, oh, you so easily offended, man. You so easily offended, man. I didn't feel like I said anything wrong, man. You soft as hell, man. You soft as peanut butter. I'm just serious, because we watched a couple of marriages, on marriage shows, like the show that comes on BET, the own network, Ready to Love. And we've watched other shows, we like our reality TV with Love and Marriage, Huntsville, Alabama, and we like other shows that we can't wait to watch, when Married to Medicine, Real Housewives of Atlanta. Let me tell you something, man. If you watch those shows, and I understand it's reality, but there's a lot of realness and things that you can learn from. One thing about relationship is communication. One thing about it, what stirred the pot up in marriages and relationship, even in the show we watch, Ready to Love, is how you communicate, the words that you use, because you can send mixed signals where that other spouse that's receiving your message will start tuning you out. And that's no for me. I was like this. Prime example. Early on in our marriage, I used to call you outside your name when I used to get mad. I'd be like, man, damn. Like, why in the world? And used to do that. But let me tell you something. When I watched your response, it eventually you started tuning me out. Our marriage wasn't as close as I liked it to be. It's because you still had that in your frame of your mind on what I called you. So what I'm saying to you is the same level of care that I have to make sure that even in my mind, I may not think it's a big deal, but it's a big deal to you. And we have to be so very careful in the words that we speak, and not just put it aside and say, man, you so easily offended. I didn't say nothing.
Right. And especially because if the words were said, or if the same thing was said on the other end, it would be like World War III. Like, there's absolutely no way I could turn around and say, you know what, you acting like old beat. Like, that would have not gone over easy at all. So yeah, I know a lot of people are going to probably be shocked. Like, oh my God.
It's hey, I don't care, because at the end of the day, it's realness in a relationship. And I think if people are honest with themselves, I think that's one of the messages you want to get across on our actual show, is that we are not perfect. But one thing we do is strive to perfect our relationship each and every day. And one of the things that I take hold with this topic of, the secret to relationship success is knowing how to talk to your spouse and minimizing the arguing in front of your children, minimizing the arguing period as much as you can. There's no such thing as a 100% no arguing. But what I would say to you is how you argue effectively is one of the most important things. And I think that is so very important. Just let me just put like a funny side note, right? As we was getting prepared for this show, you wanted me to wear something that you had planned out, something I have never worn before, and you wanted me to wear it. And I was putting on my collar shirt and my tie, and I said, babe, I don't want to wear that. I don't want to wear that. I want to wear what I want to have on. Can we move past this?
No, you said you ain't my mama and you ain't my daddy.
Yeah, and because you kept carrying on with it. Because you kept carrying on with it.
I wasn't. No, I came down.
You was like, this is what you said. No, this is what you said. So when I was going to put it on, you had the look. You had that look.
I ain't even said nothing. I just looked at you.
But one of the things is what I'm saying is how we dealt with it. And see, that's what, yeah, you have to move on. And I think that's so very important is that sometimes is that you have to have the ability to let things just brush off your shoulders. And you have to know your spouse enough is that, hey, you know what? It takes two to tango. Because I ain't got time. Because see, whatever you got going on or whatever in your mind right there, I ain't going to ever entertain that. I'm going to let you, yourself, take that some way. And I'm going to handle my business the way I want to handle my business. I'm going to put on this tie. I'm going to put on this collar shirt. I did a color coordination with this tie that you have on to match with your shirt that you got on. So I met you halfway. See, I met you halfway.
Anyway. That's nice. Appreciate you meeting me halfway, babe. Halfway is better than no way.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, y'all, communication is daily, guys. It's daily, okay? It is daily. Instead of calling your spouse a B, call them bae, okay? Call them bae.
And one of the things too, what I like to end on even positive note is we're so very proud of our son. Our son has been going through some homeschooling, especially with everything that's been going on, and he'll be starting school by the grace of God. And in August, one of the things that we are proud of and how we have been raising him is communication and loving and love. When I tell you our son loves love, I mean, he's not just the most handsomest boy that I've ever laid eyes on. But one of the things I like about it is, us as parenting him is understanding how a husband's supposed to treat his wife and how a wife's supposed to treat her husband. Those things are very important. Sam would like literally come and hug us and just say, just out of the blue, out of nowhere, say, I love you, daddy. I love you, mommy. And he would do that at least about 10 times a day.
But I will also say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, good.
No, I was going to also say he doesn't respond well to like yelling. And it's funny, he just got a hearing test. He scored like 100% across the entire thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an auditory test or something they call it. But he doesn't respond well to yelling. So of course, Sam has his voice projects. And when he get excited, he get to the loud, right? And it's all like he yelling, but he just excited, especially when we talk about sports for real. And Sam will be talking, and I'm talking louder because he's talking loud, and vice versa. And Sam will be thinking like, "Hey, calm down!" Like he does not respond well to the yelling because he correlates that to like negativity, argument. But when you talk very calm to him, I mean, he literally sits there and like processes it, and he gets it and he receives it so well. And even his responses are like, when I get, he pays attention to body language, and he also pays attention to tone. So that's it. But babe, we done been on here for a long time. Ooh.
What you pocket watching the time?
Yeah, I am.
Hey, but one thing I would say, I wonder if we're going to continue with homeschooling, babe. What you think? Should we continue with homeschooling?
No.
Okay. But that's on another topic of conversation. I know Yvette, we appreciate you, Yvette, on all a couple of your comments and engaging with us.
Yeah.
Wherever y'all at listening to us on our show, stay tuned. We do have our own podcast now. It's available on Apple and Spotify right now. So all you have to put in is Cuddle with Purpose. Cuddle with Purpose. We already have our first episode uploaded, which is called What is Gender Relationships in Marriages? That's a very interesting conversation. But y'all know what to do. Like, comment, and share on this video. Subscribe if you're watching us on the YouTube channel. And that's right, Yavelle. Hit that bell notification so that way you can get notified when we go live. This is more of like a pop-up live. We do normally have it scheduled so that way it can give as many people that would like to listen to our topic of conversation an opportunity to listen to us. So definitely, as you can see on the banner below, you can actually support our show through Cash App, through our Zelle account. And if you would like to be a guest, we will have like a screening process where you can email us at cuddlewithpurpose@gmail.com, and then make sure it's a good fit for you and I, because we are very serious about our branding and we want to make sure that it is focusing on the same goals that we believe what marriage is all about. So you can follow us on Instagram as well at Cuddle with Purpose. And until next time, TT, you have anything you want to say before we leave off?
Nah, peace. Cuddle with Purpose.
Y'all. Cuddle with Purpose. Take care.